All right, you guys, what's up? Here's my third video. We're gonna check out some plants that we have growing. The ones I mentioned in the last video when we were checking out the spot where I'm trying to pop some seeds open and get them to start rooting and growing. And here we go. These are all the plants that have been growing for the past couple of weeks. We have a couple friends here that have gotten a lot bigger. This one right here is a cherry tomato plant. It's actually called a, oh, you know what? I was wrong. Never mind. I got a little excited. I'm not looking at the video right. Here's the cherry tomato plant. It's actually called a red currant. And these are really beautiful when they first start to grow. The leaves are very, kind of the same shape. We would say uniform. Good word to use, and put that in your vocabulary. And the vines and the leaves and the stems on this stay pretty much the same size throughout its life, which is really interesting. And these look like branches now, but they are gonna grow into very long branched vines that are just gonna go absolutely everywhere. I'm gonna have a really fun time, but difficult time, guiding all those vines over the summer and making sure they don't get all tangled up and caught like they did last year when I was a complete rookie at growing that type of plant. This one right here is probably a Roma tomato. I foolishly did not label all my pots when I first did this. I don't know why I did that. It's very silly, but you know what? We all make mistakes, like I always say, and we learn from them, which is very important. This one right here is a cucumber sprout. And it's really interesting because it looks a lot like the watermelon sprout. So the reason these plants look really similar is because they actually come from the same family, the cucurbitaceae, which is a funny word I always thought. And it always kind of reminds me of Kirby, which is an awesome character in Super Smash Brothers. So these guys are gonna look really similar for the first parts of their life, but as they get bigger, as they start to do different things, some of them create vines, some of them just create branches, and you can start to kind of tell what's going on here exactly. These right here, these are more lettuce. These are all butter lettuce. You'll see these in the supermarket a lot, and I had a lot of trouble growing lettuce last year, like I was saying in my last video, and I've been really successful so far, which I'm really happy about. These are all gonna get about 1 foot wide, so as they get a little bit bigger and it gets warmer out, I'll be putting them outside and kind of spacing them out in long rows. We have, oh, well, these pea plants are trying to steal the show. Get out of here, guys. I was focusing on the corn first. You go over here and stay there. And there we go. Okay, so these are more corn sprouts, which are pretty cool. These are gonna get bigger. I'm gonna probably wait till they're about this tall this year before I put them outside. I really wanna be careful about putting all my plants out at once and you know, having all these plants yield, which means they're actually able to be harvested, whatever they create, you know, tomatoes, corn, and stuff like that. I don't want them all to yield at the same time. I want to produce food this year in layers, so which will be really great because then I can also bring more food to you guys at school and around the neighborhood and stuff like that. I really want to help as many families and you guys as I can. Plant some stuff in your yards if you're allowed to and you have space. It's really fun to grow things. Even if you don't end up making any food, totally fine. It's good to practice. We have a little tiny corn sticking up right there. If I move this soil away, we can see it a little bit more. It's starting to come through, which is exciting. All right, now you guys, I know you wanted to be in the video. These are sugar snap pea plants, and they're gonna get a lot taller. They're gonna get about 6 feet tall. They're gonna try to grab onto whatever they can, which I have to keep in mind as I grow these, because if I put these next to my tomatoes, they're gonna start to grab on. This little guy right here, sticking out, there you go. That thing's gonna spin around slowly over hours and hours, and it's gonna start to try to grab onto whatever it can. The water pushing through this plant is gonna cause all of the plant cells to start to move, but it seems like, you know, it's not moving at all except for the wind pushing it. But it is moving. It's just moving a lot slower than we do. So we don't think about it, but time is really interesting because there's been a long time that the earth has been around. And so these plants, even though they move slower, to them it really isn't that much different. And their life, while they're moving, it seems like normal speed to them. So they've been living a long time on earth, and the time that they've lived on earth, they probably, if they do perceive things with their brains, whatever way they communicate, they are probably perceiving time on earth in a similar way that we would. But it's kind of interesting because they're gonna grab onto anything. It just takes a while. And if you look away too long, you might actually look back the next morning and like, wow, they're already grabbing on a bunch of things. These guys right here, these are spinach plants, which are always fun. I have guinea pigs. So another thing I'm trying to do this year is make a lot of plants that can produce food for my guinea pigs, so we don't have to buy food all the time. Really useful thing to be able to make your own stuff. This is probably a big red tomato, another one I foolishly did not label, but I think it's a big red tomato because this leaf right here in the middle, a lot of the times tomato leaves, they look similar from far away, but if you look at them really closely, they have differences. These little things right here that stick out, okay, this is an opposite leaf pattern. So you've got different shapes on one side, that side, and then a different shape on this side. So you can kind of tell what it might be. Its shape, this one's kind of more long and pointy like that. And whereas this one over here, it's got more of a short end. And look, you've got 1, 2, 3, whereas this one's kind of all together, but then it sticks out a little bit lower right there. So lots of ways to identify. This little sad guy right here is a zucchini plant that I actually touched and I should not have. This part right here is called the cotyledon. That's the fat part that's on the inside of a seed, and that will break out and turn into 2 leaves usually, and then the main leaf will start to grow out of the middle. I messed with this plant. I shouldn't have. I dug down to see what was going on because it was taking a while to sprout, and I touched the seed coat while it was still growing. So what happened is all the cells on the inside, they started to get damaged, almost like a little sore, you know, and it started to break away. Luckily, this still split open a little bit, and that green that you see is the plant's making food. Anywhere that you see green on a plant, pretty much it's gonna have a little bit of chlorophyll in it. Chlorophyll is causing that color, and that chlorophyll is gonna take the energy from the sun and water, and it's gonna turn it into, you guessed it, sugar, so the plant can grow. So this one actually is growing, which is nice. But it's gonna take a while now because it's been hurt, it's been damaged, so it's gonna be stressed, it's gonna grow very slow, but plants have a remarkable ability at fighting through a lot of issues and still making it. This is kale, which is pretty cool, and when you make kale, you can actually make it into a lot of different stuff, because when you blend it up and things like that, you can make it sort of like a thick, watery base for a lot of different healthy smoothies and stuff like that you guys can try out. This one right here is a watermelon, which is growing kind of tall. Now this year, I'm pretty nervous about it, but what I'm gonna try to do is actually grow my watermelons up a tower instead of out and across. And what I'm trying to do this year is make it so all my plants don't get too wet. They don't get too thick and muggy and moist, because that's when bacteria is going to start to grow. It's going to start to kill your plants, and you don't want that. So I'm going to see if I can grow this watermelon up a tower like a tomato and see if I'm able to kind of wind it up and down and get the watermelons to hang down that way. If it doesn't work out, I do have a few more backups, which is totally fun. So I think this is about it for all my plants. I don't want to make these videos too long and boring, so as always, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll be checking out your comments. Remember to like and subscribe. Leave any kind of ideas you want for experiments and anything you want to see. Take care.